Can neck problems make swallowing difficult or even start to affect your voice? This is a question we got asked a few weeks ago where someone was asking if muscle spasms or tension in the neck or throat area can put pressure on the esophagus, which is the part where we're breathing through in the throat, which can affect swallowing and cause voice changes. And the example, again, it's been cut off here, is kind of like putting pressure onto a hose pipe. That would be the example they were using, and it does make sense how we can make this link between the two. However, what more commonly will happen is if there is problems in the neck, it can start to put pressure on some of those muscles and surrounding nerves. And the nerves it may affect, particularly the ones in the top parts of the neck, are the area that we would call your cranial nerves. And some of those lower cranial nerves are going to affect things like our swallowing and our voice. This is actually how we get control of swallowing and voice. This is why if somebody has an injury to their cranial nerves, it really depends where that injury is and how it starts to affect those nerves. Say if it's some of the ones higher up, it may start to affect things like their sense of smell. It may affect their eyesight. If it's going to be some of the ones lower down, it could affect the movements of the shoulders, or it can affect things like how well someone swallows, whether they can swallow or not. If they can't swallow well, it can be called dysphagia. And that essentially is less about the muscles putting pressure on the esophagus, but it's more about there being pressure on the nerves, which send the information to those areas for swallowing, for those internal muscles for swallowing. And similar for the changes in voice. Voice is going to be, the way that you speak is controlled partially by muscles. And if these muscles are not getting the right kind of feedback, the right kind of information through the brain, through these cranial nerves, then to those actual muscles, then it may lead to them having changes in the voice, whether it's in terms of maybe not speaking as confidently, or maybe even potentially changing the tone of the voice or making things sound very, very different. Sometimes when people have neck injuries, you may see where they have this very big change in their voice. Maybe it becomes very raspy, maybe it becomes higher pitched. It's because those muscles are now being changed and how they are working because the information getting to them. A way to think of it is a bit like, say, on a very simple level, we talked about the idea of a hose pipe. Think of it more like, say, a phone charger. If I damage the charger on a phone, it may not be able to fast charge. It may not be able to charge at all. It's going to start to affect the quality of the information going through. In that case, it would be electricity. But in this case, for your body, when it's going through the nerves, it's going to be affecting not just something simple like power. It's going to be affecting how well other functions can work. So if there is something happening in that top part of the neck, it's very normal. The muscles may tense around this to try and protect and help the area. That's why those muscles in the neck or around the throat area may be more tense. And that then starts to put pressure on the nerves, either because of, say, a misalignment in the area or because of, say, that tension in the muscles themselves. So it's less that it affects the esophagus. It's more that it would affect the cranial nerves, typically for these cases. For it to affect something like the esophagus, because it's quite a big structure,